Hey guys, this is Martial Mentality, and I'm your host, Delmar Miner. I am a Sifu of Northern Shaolin and also a sensei of Ishinryu Karate. I've been practicing martial arts for 21 years, and I have my co-host here with me today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Taylor. I'm one of the assistant instructors here at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu, and I have been training for 14 years now.
I'm Bobby Elliott, and I've been training here as a student for 2 years.
And guys, if you have any comments, questions, please like, share, subscribe below. Please tell your friends about the podcast. They can find us at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu at YouTube. Or if you're listening out there, on whatever platform that you're on, please support us. We would love that.
Bobby, it's only been 2 years. I thought it's been longer.
No, April made 2 years. Yeah. It's going on 3.
Which actually takes us into our topic. Let's segue into that. So our topic today is age in martial arts. Okay. So, Bobby, since you're on our podcast for the first time, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you decided to begin martial arts.
Well, I'm 42. I got 2 kids that are almost adults now. My daughter's 21 and my son is 18. And I was just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a midlife crisis, but I got to a point where my kids are getting older, and what am I going to do in my life? I was going through a lot of life changes with getting sober and, just kind of trying to figure out who I was, and I needed something to do. And, I grew up in the 80s watching Karate Kid, and that was like, I always was jealous of my cousins who my uncle had a dojo for a while, and he taught them karate, and I was just always jealous of them getting to do that. And I was like, you know what, let's try that. That's what I want to do.
So what made you, how did you find us here at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu?
So funny enough, one of the other students here, Mitch, I met him on Tinder, and we actually became friends through Instagram, and we both like photography. And I saw a lot of his posts and about his training and his forms, and I just hit him up and was like, hey, what's it like? How do you like it? And he's like, come out to the school, see it for yourself. And I met you guys, and you guys
I think
are like
I'm the one who
family.
worked with you that night, too.
Yeah, you were the first person I worked with, but all of you guys were just so like family. It didn't feel like, I don't know, it didn't feel uncomfortable. It just felt like I belonged here. Like everybody was family, everybody was friends, everybody was just, it was a great environment, cutting up jokes, but being serious, but learning, and it was just a lot of fun.
Okay. Gotcha. So, of course, I can't leave my boy Trevor out. So, Trevor, we already kind of told us a little bit about yourself at the beginning, but, why did you decide to begin martial arts?
I was small from my age as a kid, so I'm pretty sure my parents probably were a little, kind of worried I might get picked on and whatnot. But I think more so it was about, I like Ninja Turtles, I like Power Rangers, I watched The Karate Kid religiously. I still have all 3 on VHS. I was just a big nerd and wanted to do something cool like I see in the movies and stuff. And I found this place probably a few years after I stopped doing karate because my instructor decided to become a pastor. And I found the school at one of the dance recitals because my best friend, his sister was dancing there at the time. I went over to his house over the weekend, was sitting there playing Pokemon in the crowd. And then all of a sudden I hear Naruto anime music. I'm like, what's going on? And I see this man with very little dreads.
Yeah.
You had just started growing them out.
Just started growing them.
And here he comes running across stage doing praying mantis and just flipping and kicking. I was like, I know this guy. I don't know how.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, I was probably
14 years ago, so that's what?
Mid-20s. Yeah, I was in my mid-20s.
Because I was 15, 16.
Yeah, because I'm 40 now. So, yeah, about 25, 26, somewhere in there. Okay, well, since everybody went. So, yeah, I started doing martial arts age 19. Started at Winthrop University. First style that I practiced was Ishinryu Karate. And I'm still with Master Longwith. And I started training Kung Fu with my first Sifu, Keone Everton. And then later on in my martial arts career, started training with Jason Van Winkle. And yeah. But I started when I was kind of like, and since we're talking about age of martial arts, I started in like a good spot because I was an adult, but I was a teenager. I was 19. So Bobby, you started at 42, and then Trevor, technically you started 15, 16, but you actually started earlier than that.
I mean, yeah, I probably started around 12 or 13 with my first instructor, who that's actually how I originally met you.
Yeah, because
you were bald back then.
Yeah, I was. So
shiny bald.
No.
Yes, so you could see your reflection in it.
Quick little segue. I remember Trevor because so later on, I was about 25, 26, somewhere in there. I was training at his karate instructor's school in York, South Carolina. And so Trevor was small. So that's probably what Trevor remembered me. Yeah.
About maybe that tall.
Yeah.
Maybe about high.
And that's also how Caleb too.
Yeah, Caleb too.
So those of you who don't know, Caleb Coop, he's another training brother of mine, or somebody else who trained with me. He actually is in Taiwan now, and he has become
he is a superstar.
Yeah, he's a movie star there.
Yeah, no, like he's singing on like their version of the Emmys.
Wow.
Yeah,
Stuff.
He's like a host of like one of their television shows. Because we were talking last week, and I didn't even know he was doing that. So,
wow.
I've seen him post some stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, his Kung Fu took him to literally stardom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyway, sorry to keep going. So you started, like I said, you say you were about 15, you were about 42. So let's talk about
40.
40.
Yeah,
okay,
42
sorry.
now.
You were 42 now. Sorry. So you
Yeah.
were 40. So let's kind of talk about what were your reservations or challenges that you faced when you started training? Let's go with Trevor first.
Okay, I guess some reservations or challenges. Me being a lot smaller. I mean, you remember how small and skinny I was. It's like, could I really do this? Am I strong enough to do this? Am I going to be sitting there and become everyone's punching bag?
Mm-hmm.
This, that, and the third.
Did you, since you were a younger person, did you take your martial arts seriously at the time, or did you just think, oh, it's just kind of something fun to do? It's just like soccer or football or basketball or
No, because I did all that other stuff, and when my instructor Matt, my first instructor Matt, he quit. I was like, I always missed it. Like it was, I knew it was something I wanted to do, and I just, luckily I found you and was able to keep up with it. But no, I mean, I always felt like I took it seriously because I wanted to be able to, make sure that I actually could defend myself if I ever needed to.
Which is interesting from a teenage or child point of view, because a lot of times we've seen a lot of kids come through the doors and do martial arts, and they kind of don't take it seriously. They kind of think it's just, I'm just kind of here because mom and dad told me so.
I also, during that time, I transitioned from public to private school. So I went to private school where the teacher could smack you if you're, bat talking and whatnot, to where I think like my first week and a half into public school, I saw like 2 or 3 fights, and I was like, oh,
so you were motivated basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So Bobby, as you being a 40-year-old, starting martial arts later in life, what were some of your reservations and challenges that you faced?
I think it's kind of similar to Trevor, but opposite, where I've always been a big girl. I've never been like average in size when it comes to my weight. I was really nervous as far as like, can I keep up? Am I going to be able to do, the kicks and honestly, I didn't realize this style had a lot of kicks as it does, but found that out real quick. But I think that was really what I was afraid of was, am I going to be over on the sideline not being able to breathe? Am I going to be able to keep up with you guys? Because, being 40 years old, coming in here, most of y'all were in your 20s. And with the exception of you and Mitch, most everybody was
Mr. Ed.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ed.
Don't forget Mr.
Man,
Ed.
Mr. Ed is nimbly bimbly, I tell you. But all of y'all were so young and athletic. And I I've never been athletic my whole life. I've always been, the little grunge goth girl that played video games and didn't really go outside. And like, so I was just scared that, or worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up. I like the idea that I would lose weight, and it's interesting that the way the weight loss happens, you see it kind of similar to going to the gym and weight training. It's more of muscle tone, not so much getting skinny. But that was more so what I was afraid of more than anything, was just, can I hang with you guys? I'm a 40-year-old woman y'all, who's never really been athletic at all. And you guys were young and athletic and muscular. And could I keep up?
Well, let me ask you this. It sounds like you were a little intimidated. So how did you overcome that intimidation factor? And then, you're coming into a situation where, there are a lot of guys and you're one of the few ladies in class. So how do you overcome that as well?
Which I can count on one hand how many women have actually stuck when they come into the school.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was another lady that started with me, and I think she was here maybe 2 weeks, and then she left. I've always been a tomboy. I've always preferred hanging out with dudes over chicks because I've never been into a lot of girly girl things. I just never fit in. Well, it felt like I fit in with a lot of girls, but it was kind of like being an only child. I always wanted brothers. I always wanted that, protector aspect. And I found that in you guys. Y'all were a brotherhood. And it was nice to feel accepted. And it was nice to feel like, y'all got my back. Even though I struggle with that, and I struggle with hearing you guys cheer me on. I still struggle with it. I still struggle with allowing y'all to be in my corner. But I don't know. It's almost an ego boost sometimes, just to be like, yeah, I got this. And it takes a lot of humbleness on my part to realize that I can't do the same things that you guys can do. I don't have the same amount of strength. I may not have the same dexterity, but I'm still going in there. I'm still trying. I'm still doing what I can do, even if I can't. I shouldn't compare myself to others. That is a big lesson that I had to learn, still have to learn. But I don't know. I don't know what to say when I say what keeps me around. I think it's that realizing I can do it, not letting that fear get to me that I'm not good enough, that I can't hang with you guys. Because I've really been amazed at the stuff I've accomplished in this time. And I still struggle. When y'all do anything that involves jumping, I'm like, God. But like, that's the scariest thing to me. But it's, it's because I still have that stigmata about my weight and my fear of, am I going to be able to get up?
Well, to kind of comment on this question, what some reservations and challenges that I faced. So I can start from so many different aspects. I'm going to start from the aspect of the teaching. Okay. So I'm going to go from that aspect because when I started teaching, I was a younger person. And so being young and being inexperienced in life was a challenge because, now you're trying to lead a group of people when you're still kind of trying to figure your own self out. And so that can be very difficult. And also, too, when you're around your peers and they're older than you, they know more than you. And, of course, you respect them. You look up to them. You kind of don't want to look like the novice of the group, even though you are. And
you don't want to be the odd man out.
Right. And it's easy to be like that, especially when you're kind of, the different one. And then also, being at the time, I was the new kid on the block. And that was different too, So now I'm trying to navigate all these new experiences, these new things. And then, of course, I'm still training myself as well. And one way I actually got into teaching. So at Winthrop, we had a club. We had the Winthrop Kung Fu Club, and it was going really well. And my seafood was there, and we were doing tournaments, and we started to kind of really excel. And we had a small group at the time, but they were a talented group. We were a really talented group, and like we were serious. And of course, we're college students, so we're young, we're athletic, we have time.
Yeah, you got all the time in the world.
We're just that's all we did was eat, sleep, go to school, train kung fu. That's what we did. And so, it was great. But then my teacher ended up getting another job in Las Vegas. So he was leaving. So at the time I was devastated because, it was about 3 years in, and he was just like, hey, well, I'm going to be leaving, but guess what? I can still train with you guys. Like, you can come visit, and I'm going to come back and visit because, his mother was in the area. So, but, it wasn't like the same as, hey, we're going to see each other regularly. So I had to take more responsibility for my training. And then my Kung Fu brothers at the time, they had to do the same thing. So we all kind of rallied together as a group and said, well, hey, we still love doing martial arts. Well, Sifu, what should we do? And he was like, well, I want you guys to, teach what you've learned, keep the club going. And that's kind of what we did. And then eventually that morphed into, obviously, me teaching a school out in the community. But that was a major challenge at the time because, for me as a younger man, and I was so, wrapped up in martial arts, to lose my Kung Fu teacher at the time, not lose, but not have them in the vicinity like I wanted was really, really difficult. But now in hindsight, that happening definitely made me take more responsibility for my own training and not depend on somebody else to do it for me, which I think sometimes students can get in the habit of, oh, well, Sifu's there, so he'll correct me. Well, what if Sifu's not there? Or what if Trevor's not there? Or whoever you're training with is not there to keep you correct. You have to correct yourself. So that made me take responsibility for my own training. So those are some challenges that I dealt with. Any other surprise challenges that you guys, had during your martial arts or early martial arts career?
I'll say the physical stuff is pretty obvious. I know those first couple months I joined, my knees were terrible. My knees were killing me. But I will say, I wasn't so much worried of the physical stuff. But the more you work at it, the more you build those muscles, the more you learn those stances, the easier that gets. Those small pains go away.
So, not trying to interrupt,
Yeah.
but you're talking about these pains now.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for people who maybe want to start martial arts at a more advanced age, maybe late 30s, 40s, 50s? What is something that you can say that you did that kind of helped you overcome some of those aches and pains and things that you dealt with?
Stretch, warm up. I find that when we warm up, and if I before class, we always have that 20 minutes that we're supposed to be warming up before we go into what you teach. And if I don't do that, I feel it. Even if it's just jumping jacks, push-ups, a couple stretches, you literally can feel the difference when taking the time to do those stretches, to do the warm-up, than not doing it and just going right into whatever lesson we're learning. Yoga, that was a huge one. Yoga was not just helping with flexibility, but strength. And that was almost like a whole body thing. Because even if we were, say, working legs real heavy one week, taking that time out to slow everything down and just get a good stretch in. But then the last maybe 10, 15 minutes when you just have that meditation period. Because, with martial arts, people think it's very, in your face, go, go, go. But with yoga, you have to literally slow it down. And sometimes just taking that time to slow down and get those good stretches in, it just really makes everything else so much easier.
Gotcha. So Trevor, I know that, you started as a young man and now you're soon to be 30.
Man, don't remind me.
Yeah.
Don't remind me I'm about to be 30.
Listen, man, 30's the
Over
new
the
20,
hill.
man.
I wish.
It is, trust
I
me.
can tell you one thing. I ain't a spring chicken no more.
So going,
Right.
and I'm going to ask you about that. So now that you're, you went from a teenager to a young spry man to you're not an old man, of course,
I
but
know I'm
like
not old.
but you're getting to
Seasoned.
you're seasoned. Right. Now that you're a seasoned vet, how did your training change?
I remember when I could come in here, like so when I was a teenager and into my early 20s, where I could go cold and just immediately, we're off. If I don't warm up, I'm going to be hopping like an old man the next morning. And I'll be like crawling to that shower being like, oh, just lay there while the hot water falls on you till your
God, yeah.
body loosens up enough that you can get up and be just like, oh.
Oh, that was exactly me after that 12 rounds of sparring, literally in the shower, just.
Hate I missed that.
So recently we did 12 rounds of sparring. We were doing some testing for some people, which we'll eventually have them on the podcast as well to kind of talk about their testing. But honestly, I mean, I think a lot of people hear that, and when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, 60 years old, you go 12 rounds of sparring. I ain't doing that. But this lady, myself, other people, we're examples that you can do that. You just have to push yourself. And
Not many people want to do that.
well, it's more when you get older, it is definitely a lot more mental sometimes than physical.
Absolutely. That was it last year after the tournament when Sifu Dimitri came down. And
Oh,
did
that was a rough workout.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
That's-
Don't remind me.
Was it 7 hours?
Man,
all day.
about 7 to 8
Oh,
hours.
yeah.
So, if anyone doesn't know who Shifu Dimitri is, he is what we like to call our Sifu's evolved form. And then they have an evolved form called Sifu Othel, which we might have them on the podcast one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this their joke that for you Pokemon fans, like I'm basically like the lowest level, and then Dimitri's
You
the
ain't the lowest, you
evolved
just
level.
base.
Yeah, I'm the base
Wow.
Base
level.
form.
I'm the base
Burn.
form, right? I'm the base form, and then Dimitri's the next level, and then Sifu Othel is the last level. I mean,
It has to deal with the size of the dreads.
yes, it's true. It's true. We all have dreads, and we all, we kind of somewhat have similar builds and things like that. So hopefully we can have them all on the podcast one day so you can see them and meet them.
But the story, Shifu Dimitri came and gave us an idea of what it was like living at the temple, because that man, he lived in China for God knows how long.
I think you said every summer.
And then
Yeah.
at one point he moved there permanently for a little while.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He was running a school over there and everything, and that he'd tell us some stories while he proceeded to torture us all day long.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
remembered after that workout, I literally couldn't walk.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nah.
I
Oh, yeah.
was having trouble walking.
Did I tell you what happened the next day?
Mm-mm.
I got up to get up out of the bed like in the middle of the night to like use the restroom, and I fell on the floor.
Oh.
My legs just went out from under me.
That's how
Nothing.
It was. What we started off with, what was it, like boxing and like hand combos?
I thought we
and
were
stuff.
running and
Yeah,
stuff.
well, so that was our warm up. We had to run around the school, and like I can't even remember how many times it was, because I feel like he said 25, but we kept going.
No, it was a lot. No,
Yeah.
Shifu Dimitri said, or you're only doing this much, and we probably did double.
Yes, and then we did all the what do you call it? It was like the fist and the hand combos, continuous.
I don't remember.
I don't remember what he called it.
Yeah, but it was
Conditioning exercises,
yeah,
all kinds of
and then
stuff.
we had like an hour break, come back, had to run again, and then we did the drunken, and then after the entire day,
Then we did Sanda at the end of it.
Yeah, and the very last thing after everything, we had to spar each other.
Oh, yeah, that sucked.
Yes.
I literally went into the sparring match with Nate, and I was like, "Look, Nate, I don't mean I'm not trying to be vicious with you, but I said, but you getting took down."
I
Oh,
mean, yeah.
I felt you tried to take me down. I was like, we're going together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so for those you don't know, at the end of the seminar, Sifu Dimitri made us spar, and he basically said like, "What, you have to get your opponent on the ground?"
No,
Yeah.
we had to
We
we
had
had to pull off a technique from the drunken that he showed us, or it was
Or any
100.
technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it was 108 horse steps.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And 100, and the horse steps are basically like you're gonna get in a horse stance, and hands are gonna be extended, and you're gonna hop up
It's a
and
jump squat, basically.
click
Yeah.
your heels together and come back down in a horse stance.
It was rough.
They're horrible. So if you're looking for a way to torture your students and make them train,
Or you want to punish your
or
child?
you want to punish them, the horse steps work.
Didn't
Trust
you do
me.
that to the kids' class one day?
Oh yeah, that's what I changed. After that, I changed from holding the wall to horse steps.
I remember,
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
'Cause
Horrible.
We got kids at that point. It's like I can hold the ball.
Oh yeah. They got good at holding the wall. They got good at horse stance. They're like, oh, I can do this. They didn't care anymore. Them horse steps. Oh no, they don't like that. Yeah,
Just
they're
immediately start crying.
They
Oh,
are
yeah.
crying and hollering and
rough.
things of that nature.
But
So
yeah, it was. I will say that day, although the physical wore us out, it took a lot of mentality at the end to be like, okay,
took a lot.
Would you say that
Marshall
Marshall mentality?
Hey, yeah.
it did. It really did. Like it was similar to the 12 rounds of sparring where it was like, this is a mental challenge. Can you mentally push yourself to get through this? And we went first and we did our sparring. We went and sat down. And then I remember trying to stand up to go throw my Gatorade drink away. And I couldn't, it was a struggle to make it 5 foot to that trash can.
So one thing about hard training like that's good is it teaches you that you have more in you than you probably expect.
So true.
And especially for us as middle-aged people, we are nowhere near old, okay?
Don't call me middle aged.
You just go ahead.
It's creeping on you.
Listen, you're old enough to be somebody's daddy.
I know you're not wrong about that.
The kids, you reach, as the kids say, you reach unk status. All right, you Uncle Trevor. Yep. Gray in your hair.
I already know I got gray in my hair. You ain't gotta remind me.
Gray in your hair. You're wearing the thick sole shoes.
You go
and
to
the-
bed at 7
like-
or 8. You're old.
That's on Saturdays, and leave me alone.
So I mean, yeah, and in that respect, like that is where our age and our experience can push us to greater heights than sometimes youth can. Because when you're young, you're kind of overconfident and cocky. Because you're like, well, I'll recover. Well, guess what? When you get injured, when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you don't recover as quickly.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of injury, Bobby was here with me Sunday.
Oh.
I didn't put a lot of weight on the bar. I was going to do some squats while I was watching the football game. Okay? I go and I do I'm on rep 8, and next thing you know, there's a twinge in my back, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I finished them, but when I was done, she saw me. I literally was on the ground just rolling. I had trouble standing. Now I feel fine now. I think I just pulled a muscle, maybe pinched a nerve, but when you're 20, that rarely happens.
Oh yeah.
And so,
I mean,
Walk it off.
I had that real bad ankle sprain back about a year ago now, and I had to go to physical therapy for the very first
Right.
time when I messed it up.
right. So guys, any other comments about any of the other questions before we go to commercial break? Anything you like to expound upon?
I will say sometimes coming in, being older to start, you also have to check your ego at the door. Because, I think sometimes you're like, you get in that, I know what I'm doing. You don't. You really don't. There's so much stuff that I can understand it, but then actually doing it, it's a whole nother story. And if you don't really allow yourself to take that lesson and actually listen and apply it, that ego is going to send you out the door. I think that's why a lot of people don't stay, is because they don't like having someone hold them accountable and be like, hey, even if you're struggling, you got to figure out a way around it. It's that mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to develop a Marshall mentality. What about you, Trevor? Anything?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is, I agree with what you're saying, Bobby, is the whole ego thing. You got to realize that you're not going to be the best at something. There's always going to be someone a little bit better than you, and you got to take that and run with it.
I think in a martial arts school, I think what happens to a lot of older people who come in later is sometimes you may have somebody who's younger than you instructing you or helping you.
Mm-hmm.
They may be your older classmate. And even though you're the older person, you need to humble yourself to be able to take instruction from somebody who might be younger than you. Here at the school, we have some Seahings, and we have some people here who've been training for a while, and they're really good. James and Nate. They're 17 years old, but they will help somebody who's older than them. And then, of course, as an older person, sometimes you don't want a teenager telling you what to do, or a child, or so you're right. You have to humble yourself and check that at the door. And yeah, I can definitely agree with what you guys are saying. So,
Or you have those people that, oh, well, I went to this school for a year, or I've learned this type of karate or mixed martial arts or taekwondo. I have a black belt. Well, this is totally different.
exactly.
It's a totally different type of training, totally different type of curriculum. And even if I've watched it on TV, it's so different. It's so different until you actually get in here and do the work.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right.
It doesn't matter how old you are or what you think you know. You can always learn.
You should.
Yeah.
You should, as they say, empty your cup. Yeah, don't come into a situation thinking, and sometimes as older people, I mean, now that I'm the age of 40, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I definitely know that. I have life experience, and well, maybe you don't know everything just because you're seasoned, as Trevor would call it.
It's funny you say empty your cup. One thing I have learned here, not just through my own struggles with martial arts, but with my own mental struggles and things I deal with, being able to allow myself to empty that cup and take in what y'all are teaching me, not just on the martial arts level, but that mentality level, that is something that will almost refill that cup to the point that you now want to pass that forward. And there's so much that when you allow yourself to let go of all those preconceived notions of, I'm older, I know this, I know that, it really opens up a whole new world of what you learn, what you can do, and what you can give back.
So, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. So, guys, we have coming up in the spring of 2025, the Queen's Charlotte Cup. Okay, for those of you who don't know what that is a Kung Fu tournament in Charlotte, North Carolina, hosted by the Carolina Association of Chinese Martial Arts. We have a lot of cool events at this tournament. You have Lei Tai, you're going to have forms, you're going to have weapons, you're going to have Jinshu, you're going to have, external and internal forms. Chi Sao. So if you're a martial arts enthusiast, please come out. And I believe they have Kempo or other divisions. So if you do a style of maybe karate or you do Kempo, come out, try it out. I think you would really enjoy the tournament. It's a great time. And it's in spring 2025, and we'll provide you more information about that as it comes out. All right, and welcome back after commercial break. So listen, Bobby, as a teacher, one thing that frustrates me is I have started doing a ladies self-protection course here, okay? And for some odd reason, they always seem to start out really strong and then they fizzle. So now the ladies that started out with us are no longer either coming for various reasons.
How many do y'all have now? Because it was a big group at one point.
It was a big group, but now, sparingly, we only had one person the last time, which, and I understand that. But Bobby, can you please explain to me, why you feel that, as a woman, martial arts can sometimes be a challenge, or why maybe some ladies aren't drawing to the martial arts like I would expect them to because of, self-protection purposes and things of that nature?
So there's a lot of ways I could go with that. With martial arts, I'll say, so with self-protection, let's go there. Self-protection, a lot of women want to do self-protection because they always feel that they have to guard themselves against people, specifically men. And for me, one of the reasons I didn't want to join self protection class and I wanted to stay with martial arts is because I can handle myself against a woman. You know, most women are half my size. I'm not really as afraid of fighting a woman as I am a man. With men, y'all have a greater body density. You're stronger. There's a lot more factors that are involved. And if I can fight you guys, I have a greater chance out there. As far as women leaving, I think it really comes down to accountability. It comes down to, you know, mentality. In our heads, we want to be this powerful, empowered women, and it's all in the name of femininity and strength and equality. But at the end of the day, being a feminist is about being a strong woman individually, you know? And I feel, and this is speaking just for myself, I feel more powerful knowing that I can hang with you guys than if I'm, woo, girl power, yes, girl. Like, you have to be able to be accountable for yourself. You have to be able to be humbled, and you have to be able to take criticism and allow yourself to say, hey, this is a challenge. Am I going to run or am I going to stay and fight? Because if you are in a situation where you're on the street, are you going to run or are you going to stay and fight? And if someone's attacking you, if in those moments you're being attacked, your adrenaline's pumping, you're going to go into default mode. And you're going to want your default mode to be, I know how to hit. I know how to get out of attacks. I know how to kick. Your default mode doesn't need to be, I'm going to lay here and cry, because that is going to get you hurt. And I just feel like a lot of women love the idea of being strong and powerful, but it's the application of it. It's putting your money where your mouth is. Yes, you can say, I'm a strong woman, but strength is not just your muscles. It's your mentality. It's can you go 12 rounds and still go, you know? Can you work out for 7 hours in a day and then spar? You know, what if you're on a 12-hour shift because you're a nurse and you're going through a parking lot and some guy attacks you trying to take your purse? Are you going to fight him off, or are you going to say, oh, God, I'm tired, just take it? Because then he's going to be like, all right, what else can I get, you know? And it's hard. It's very hard for people to humble themselves and push themselves and do better for themselves, because if I walk away and I don't come back, that's my choice. I walked away and didn't come back. But if I have a bad class or whatever reason, and I keep coming back no matter what challenge I face, I'm going to push through it. I'm going to be stronger, you know? And it's hard being a woman, being in a boys' club, because, you know, our hormones fluctuate monthly. And there are times of the month where I physically can't handle it. My mentality can't handle it. But when I know those times are happening, you know, I have to also be an adult and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling right now. You know, this is that time of the month. I can't take getting hit. That doesn't mean I can't be here and still work out. That doesn't mean I can't still go for a run. It's all about that mentality.
Right.
It's all about, can you take accountability for yourself? Can you put your money where your mouth is? Can you keep going at the end of the day? You know, and it's hard for people to self-actualize and take that accountability.
So, you know, and Trevor, I want you to chime in on this too. I have had to learn that, you know, as teaching, especially, you have to be aware of people's trauma backgrounds and things like that. And I know sometimes when we have certain individuals that come in our school, it doesn't matter necessarily what their sex may be, or you know, everybody comes with some baggage. And
everyone's got it.
You never know what could trigger that person. And I think a challenge for us as teachers is that we have to figure out ways to incorporate everybody. We can't just single out a group. Oh, I just want big 6-foot athletic men at my school. No, our school needs to be available for anybody of any age, race, weight, whatever your background is. You should be able to come here, train, and feel comfortable. Now, whether you stay or not, that is totally your choice. We can't control that. But I think for us, what we have learned is that we have to be sensitive to people.
Yeah, you can't. It's not a one thing fixes all type situation. Like, nah, like everyone's different. Like you said, everyone's got their own baggage, own things going on in life, and you just got to make sure that you're being cognizant of that. You're including everyone when it comes to things and stuff like that.
Well, speaking as a woman who, my relationship with my kid's father was not a good, healthy relationship. It was very abusive, both physically and mentally. And it put a lot of trauma in me before I came here. And, you don't really realize how some things affect you until you get in certain situations. And, coming here, I think that was one thing that, my kid's father was 250 to 280, 6'2". And I was like, I ain't afraid to wrestle a man. I ain't afraid to wrestle a big guy. I've been doing that for years, and it really wasn't so much that I've learned that, bigger men don't scare me because I've done that. I've wrestled that. I've fought that fight. I've stood up for myself in those situations. What happens when it's somebody on drugs? What happens when it's somebody that isn't in their right mind? I've been in situations at work where, I have had to deal with that, and those triggers go off. And when they go off, typically when we're triggered, we revolt back to a default mode. And if my default mode is to get scared and shake, and in the instance where I did, have a gentleman in my store where he was on drugs and I was getting scared, I was triggered. And I had already been going here for probably a year and a half. And I could feel those triggers creep in, and I was shaking and I was getting scared. And all my training went out the window. I wasn't thinking about, defending myself. I was like, how can I get out of here? How can I get out of here? And those triggers are beautiful windows to figuring out how to heal that. And a lot of that is going back to my training. Had I set my default settings as I know what to do in this situation, I've prepared for this, I've trained for this, I wouldn't have been as scared. And when you have those triggers, it's up to you to unpack that and be like, okay, why is the situation scary for me? And what can I do the next time I get in the situation to make sure I'm protected? And when you unpack those triggers and you figure out the core of it, and then you learn the tools that you need to address those situations, you start to heal yourself in ways that you really never realized before. I had a lot of issues with you guys cheering me on in the beginning. I wasn't used to such support and such love, and even, I was yelling at you one day because you were cheering me on, and you were like, what would you want me to do? Yell at you, cut you down, tell you you can't do this? And I'm like, yes. And you were like, why? Why do you want that? And it was because I was so used to being told I was never enough. When I'm put in a situation where people are supporting me and cheering me on, it was so foreign and it was so weird, but it made me realize I need to work on that. I need to fix that part of me in here and in here that causes that. And, through martial arts, I have learned that there are good men out there. There are people that love you and support you and are going to look out for you. And when you realize that not everybody in this world is going to attack you and is going to hurt you, you start to make yourself more aware of situations, and you start getting more prepared, and you start learning, the tools that you need when those situations happen that you're not going to revolt back to crying or being scared or running. You're going to be ready because you have the tools, you have the information, and you're not. It's really weird how martial arts has really made my mentality and my self-worth so much better. And I've learned so much about who I am as a person and what I can handle. And those things, when I do still get triggered, it helps me to know that I've got these tools. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to be scared anymore because I've got good people that got my back. And now I can go forward and help others in those same situations.
So, Trevor, I know, like I said, with you, you've taught people before for a while, but now that you're teaching, an older lady, and we're not just talking, about just ladies in general, but that's just who you're teaching at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like you have to adjust your training regimen to help her?
Obviously, with her being older, she's not going to be able to be doing a lot of the jumping and the kicking and whatnot right out the gate. So I've been doing stuff very much like Tai Chi speed, in a sense. We've just been doing a lot of, like yesterday, we worked on stance drills, and I teach out of, I train out of a park near my house back home, and there's a little field out in the back behind a baseball field that's where we meet and we work out. And I mean, we do drills just up and down the field. We work on our forms and stuff. I brought not this past time, but the time before, I brought out hand pads and we worked on a little bit of stuff.
Okay.
Just getting her moving, getting her used to it, because she comes from a style where they were doing a lot of shorthand type movements and stuff like that. So she's not used to being elongated,
right,
and stuff like that. And it's going to take time.
And definitely, you have to, from the teaching aspect, like you're saying, you have to be able to adjust your teaching style to fit. Like I said, like we were saying, different people who come in your school, and primarily we're focusing on individuals who are, of different age brackets and things like that. Usually older, for this podcast, but even let's think about young children. When you have young children that come in here, you cannot talk to a young kid about chi and how that spirals in your body and being soft as cotton but strong as steel. They don't get that.
No, I have an example of that with teaching Charlie recently.
Oh, go.
I was trying to explain to him something on Monday, and it was something I can't remember exactly what it was, but I tried to use, I guess, a higher thinking or a higher learning type concept, and he was just like, I was like, okay, think of it like this. And he's like, oh,
right.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah. You've got to meet people where they are, whether it be like you just said, hey, I came in here, I'm in my 40s, I've been through an abusive relationship. So I have some triggers. And then you were saying, hey, when I started martial arts, I was a skinny kid and I saw fights, and now I got to figure out how to defend myself. And I remember when I started, my thing was I really wanted to be powerful. I felt like, hey, this is going to help me be powerful. This is going to help me gain confidence and things like that. And it has done that, but it wasn't healthy at the time I was thinking like, oh, well, this is going to make people respect me.
I think I had a little bit of that too. Coming from my situation, I think it was like, nobody's going to ever hold me down again. Nobody's ever going to hit me again or hurt me again.
Same here. Like, I was like, I'm not going to be the one that gets picked on.
Yeah. And I think you have a lot of people who come through our doors who have that same mentality, that something has happened in their life, some trauma, something horrible, and they go, you know what? I'm going to fix it by doing this, and sometimes martial arts almost reminds me of Star Wars. You have the Jedis and the Sith. Which one are you going to become? Are you going to, go to the dark side, or are you going to go to the light side? Yeah. No, for real. I mean,
and cooler weapons.
And depending on,
Plus,
what
the colors
your
are red
situation
and black. I mean,
that's our colors.
First off,
We are the Sith. Don't let him fool you.
No, one of the coolest Jedi was Mace Windu. I like Mace Windu.
Do you know that how he got the purple lightsaber?
No.
He literally told George Lucas, like, do y'all have purple? And he was like, no, it's usually blue or green. Or he's like, well, mine's going to be purple.
Nice.
And Samuel L. Jackson got his purple lightsaber.
Gangster.
Nobody is going to tell that man no.
Nah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, and I'll tell you why I like Mace. I know this is kind of a strange segue, but I like Mace because he's kind of like, yes, we know he's a Jedi, but he's kind of like the Jedi with an edge.
Oh, no. It's even written. Man, don't get the Star Wars nerd start talking. But nah, like he ain't afraid to use dark side abilities.
Right. And
to get the job done.
And as a martial artist, sometimes like depending on what the situation is, sometimes you gotta be like that.
I mean, sometimes we gotta use the old mentality of sweep the leg.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I think that's something that either makes people stay or makes them leave is when those triggers hit them, and they get that fear and that ego, and they're like, I don't have to deal with this, and they walk out that door. That's part of martial arts. It's that martial mentality of you're going to deal with it one day.
You got to develop a thick skin, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, we live in a society where that is not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a priority to have that anymore.
Yeah, and you either come in here and you say, I'm not going to deal with this, and you walk out, or you're like, all right, I'm going to deal with this, and you learn, and you learn how to deal with it and how to overcome those triggers.
So how
in
do
a safe space?
I'll start with Trevor. So Trevor, so you got somebody, who comes in. How do you? Well, let's say it for yourself. How did you adjust your training in order to deal with your triggers, your emotional state? As a young man at the time when you started martial arts, and I guess how did that maybe morph now that you're an older gentleman?
When it came to confrontation or just what's another word I'm looking for, where I would freeze or I would try to turn around the other way, versus just standing my ground and doing what I needed to do. I mean, y'all remember what it was like when I started sparring? I'd run the entire time.
Well, I mean, but what did you do in your training to help you now be more? I don't want to use the word confrontational, but you are willing to stand up for what you believe in.
I think I just got tired of getting my butt beat.
Okay.
And finally, just a switch flip, and it's like, nah,
you're not gonna.
It's my turn now.
Yeah. Okay, Bobby. What about you? How do you? You talked about a lot of your triggers earlier. You talked about a lot of things. What did you do in your training to help you adjust for some of these issues that you're dealing with?
Well, I know for one thing, especially when it comes to not so much sparring, but like when we're doing like team workouts and warm-ups and I'm struggling through something and y'all start cheering for me, I have to allow y'all to be in my corner. I have to allow y'all to be that supportive. I have to realize within myself that y'all are good people and y'all want nothing but the best for me. Y'all see something in me that sometimes I don't believe is there. And y'all wouldn't keep pushing me and you wouldn't keep cheering for me if you didn't believe I was capable of those things. I have to also believe I am capable of those things. Now it's harder when it comes to sparring. It's especially when I'm sparring someone who is a lot taller, stronger, and bigger than me. And they'll get me in a corner. Like Quali's a great example. He's got length, he's got reach, he's got like strength. He's taller than me. And, when I spar him, I struggle so much and I get frustrated and I want to quit. I want to quit, but I know that that's not going to make me better. It's not going to, it's almost like Trevor said, I got to get tired of getting hit. Okay. He's stronger than me. He's taller than me. What can I do? And, and then you have one of the teachers or one of the older students that's like, you got to get in and get out. There's always another way. You're just not seeing it right now. Mm-hmm. And when you face those roadblocks and you keep hitting the same wall and keep hitting the same wall, you have to really take a step back and say, okay, I got to go another way. I got to find another way because he is going to keep pummeling me until I step out. I find another way. I get in and get out. And those are those times that, even though that is something I still struggle with, if I run from that, who's to say I'm going to be able to handle myself on the street? Did I train enough to survive?
Oh, that's another podcast.
Yeah. And if I run every time y'all put me with Quali, I'm not going to get any better. I'm not going to really truly learn what it is to hold my own against someone who is bigger and stronger and has more reach, because not every person on the street is going to be my size or smaller than me.
And I think to definitely, I mean, we're definitely on topic, but I want to kind of wrap this back towards, age and martial arts. I think the challenge for most people who walk through those doors, who is of an older age or even a younger age, is that you're dealing with, for an older standpoint, you're dealing with the, people tell you, oh, you're old, or you feel old, or maybe you're not active and you have all these aches and pains and things of that nature. But I think the cool thing about martial arts training and a good instructor in a good school is that you can cater the training to where that person is. And as that person improves, or as that person has their struggles, you can tone it down a little bit, or you can amp it up. And you can amp it up as hard as you want it to be, and you can tone it down as much as it needs to be.
I've had to do that with Charlie, because I'm thinking, oh, he's young. He can do what we used to do back in the day. And it's like, no.
No, it's a different group of people.
I mean, I thought he was having an asthma attack the other day when we were doing line drills and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, you all right? Then I have to give him a second, and it's all right, well, we're going to do this now.
Right.
I always think that's the funny thing too, is you guys have taught me that because y'all are so seasoned, y'all can control your power very well. And y'all tell me, we're only going to give to you what you give back. So as we progress and I start realizing, oh, okay, I can do this a little better. I can hit this a little harder. I can follow through better with this. And I start progressing and getting better. Y'all are like, oh, okay, you're getting better. Now I can go a little harder. And those are those moments where it's like, oh, crap, now I have to level up again. And it really pushes you to, as you go, you get better. And I see it now with like new students that come in. And when you have me help them with Lama Cho, it's like, wow, they are struggling just like I did. And this kid's half my age and he is struggling. And I'm sitting here like, your horse stance can get lower. And that to me, it's one of those things where it's like, we all struggle, and even at an old age, you have to remind your older age, you have to remind yourself, if you're not moving, you are literally sitting there waiting to die.
Oh.
And if you keep moving, you're going to get stronger, you're going to get faster, and you're going to get better.
So as a quick segue to my last question, what advice do you have for someone starting martial arts at an older age? What advice can you tell the people out there in internet land? What advice do you have for them?
Just do it. Just do it. Don't be afraid. Put your fears aside. Put your ego aside. Humble hearts, Come in with an open mind, an open heart, and just do it. Like you got to eat bitter before you taste sweet.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's always going to be hard in the beginning. Like the first 3 to 6 months I was here, my knees were horrible. Now I can do squats all the way to the floor like it's nothing. Like sometimes when we're listening to you talk in class, I'm sitting in a squat, and like there's people half my age that can't do that with their knees. Yeah. It's really what you put in. You get out what you put in. You will be amazed if you just do it. Stop being afraid. Stop telling yourself, oh, well, my back hurts, my knees hurt, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. You're just making excuses. Get in there and do it. Don't be afraid.
Trevor, what advice would you have? Well, Bobby went from the older perspective. So I'm going to switch it. What advice would you give for somebody who is maybe in their, late 20s? They're aging. and their body's starting to change, and maybe they want to get into something physical like martial arts. What advice would you have for them to, start?
Don't doubt yourself.
Mm.
You are more capable of bigger and better things than you honestly think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Take it one day at a time. Rome was not built in a day. Good kung fu is not built in a day either.
Mm.
I mean, like Bobby said earlier, you got to eat bitter before you taste sweet.
I think what happens to a lot of people, that ego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, leave the ego at the door.
You have to battle that ego, or you have to battle the excuses. And I know sometimes I hate people in my age range because they act like they act like they're already in a grave sometimes. And I'm like,
no,
really? Why are you acting like that?
I got people I know right now that are younger than me, and I won't name names. I won't say who it is in relation to me, but they're close to me. They're family, and they're like, oh, I can't do this, and it's like, you younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
What you talking about?
It's the mentality. It's the mentality. And I think out of all the martial arts training, all the physical things that I could ever do, it's the mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to understand, and this is something that I have learned recently, as I have, gone from, late teens, early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, now 40. My body has changed.
Mm-hmm.
My mentality has changed. There are certain things that I am better at now that I wasn't good at then.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that I struggle with now that I didn't struggle with when I was younger. So, but the mentality is I'm going to keep going because guess what? I may have to adjust some things, and I may have to care for myself more in certain ways. I have to get more rest. I have to drink more water. I have to have a better diet, things of that nature, because I'm an older person. Your life changes. But, one thing that martial arts has taught me is that, like we just talked about a little bit ago, I can ramp it up or adjust it as I need it. Okay. And so, my advice to, people who teach is, be aware of your students, be aware of their limitations. I know sometimes I think as teachers, we want always going to go hard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is not always the best thing for the students.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to ease back a little bit. Like our class tonight, we had a good, decent workout, but then we had a great conversation about, the law and self-protection and things of that nature. And there's sometimes you need to have some of those mental classes, especially with adults, because I think with us, yes, you can be as physical as you want to be, but you have to start being able to cultivate that martial mentality, that mind, the spirit aspect of a person. And so I'm really learning as I'm growing as a person and as a teacher that, encouragement can come in many forms, and that, like I said, whether it be 5 years old to 55 years old, martial arts can be for anybody. So we have to make sure that we adjust our expectations of those people, because not everybody walks through these doors and is a martial arts savant. Some people are going to have to eat bitter, literally. Everybody's got to eat bitter, but some people eat bitter more before they can really taste that sweet.
And a lot of people don't want to. We live in a society where it's, I want the immediate,
gratification.
Yeah, immediate gratification.
Right.
Everything's so available, right at our fingertips. You want a pizza, boom, pull out your phone, order it. Everything is so available, and martial arts is something that you can't get a handout. You get what you put into it. And I will say, as someone who isn't always consistent, when I'm not, I can tell and I can feel it. But then there's people that, we go through class with, and you can tell when they've been training.
Oh, yeah.
It shows in their kicks, in their forms. And it really is something you have to work for. And that's what makes it worth it, because you're earning it. You're not getting a handout. You're not getting, oh, here's your belt. Good for you. You're earning what you get.
Well, you should earn it.
Well,
but sometimes people get that reward and haven't earned it. But that's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
So, guys, thank you for joining us for Martial Mentality. And once again, follow us on YouTube at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Like our pages. We love to have you interact with us. If you have any questions, please like, share, subscribe. Share this with your friends and family. You know, we want to definitely make this grow. And if there's any topics that you want us to discuss, yeah, feel free to leave it in the comments. Or if there's something that maybe you agreed or disagreed with something we said, yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, I just want to, plug our school a little bit. The Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu is located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Beautiful Rock Hill, South Carolina. And yes, we are one of the few Kung Fu schools actually in the Carolinas. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of Kung Fu in this area. So, guys, if you're ever, in town and you want to come and train, you're welcome. Or if you want to look up more information on the school, go to www.kungfuforever.com. And yeah, that's it. And this is Martial Mentality, and we are signing out.
Bye.
Later.